Hello, this is John Garamendi.
Hello, John. Larry Klein here with Pat Burton, Greg Sharp, and members of the public and our staff. We have a new member of the staff here. Aaron, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Aaron Acton. I'm the new Assistant Director of Planning here. Come from San Bruno, where I was there for about the past 10 years.
Good to meet you, Aaron.
Nice to meet you.
So, what's new in Sacramento?
Well, we've made it through 4 days of the session being back in place, so that was exciting. There's been one of the things that we've been working on is trying to track down those comfort letters that were suggested at the end of last session that we're all aware of, and we're having a little bit of a challenge tracking them down, and we're trying to make sure that our legislators continue to think that they're a priority. I'm afraid we may be suffering from the wimpy syndrome, which is gladly pay you tomorrow for a hamburger today. And we might be having a challenge collecting on that payment. So we're working on that. We're watching for CEQA changes or any of that shenanigans that may be going on, and they have not surfaced yet. There's some rumors of a CEQA tweak, but it's not the one we're thinking of. It's more of it's much more contained than taking on the water bill and the and high-speed rail that we're expecting. But again, we're only 4 days into the session. However, the word that we're getting from various offices is that the governor is not going to make a play on this. But again, with the caveat that we're still pretty early in this game. We attended the high-speed rail board meeting last week, and some things that were germane to Palo Alto was certainly the conversation regarding the Chowchilla Y and getting that across the CEQA path. There's a push to move that up and get that Y going as soon as they can. Obviously, that's coming from some of the advocates down in San Jose who want this to come through as soon as possible. So we're expecting to see alternatives analysis coming out in December of this year, which does have an impact on what we're doing on the peninsula. So we're taking a look at that. And then, of course, the tax initiative. Everybody's very concerned about that. Everybody but the governor seems to be worried about where that will come out. And so that's part of the conversation, too. So people are perhaps being more cautious than they were back in July about how they act and what they say, looking at the November ballot initiative. So that's sort of what's been going on in the first 4 days of Sacramento. Nothing too crazy yet, but we've still got 3 weeks of opportunity for things to start flipping around.
Is just to refresh my recollection, John, they adjourn 3 weeks from today, is that right?
That's correct.
And that's a firm date, or can they extend?
I believe that's a firm date.
Okay, and you didn't mention the high-speed rail cleanup bill.
No, I did not mention that. We're not hearing anything about it yet. We haven't seen any language, and we're not seeing the things that would make us think that this is moving quickly or a priority. I think people are focusing on pensions right now up there. So we may or may not see the comfort letters or cleanup legislation. Perhaps you guys have different information from the district on that.
So Pat, you want to talk to that confused message we got from?
Well, I put a call in to Assemblymember Gordon's staff and just got a response back today that was more focused on the comfort letters than really a clear communication on the status of the cleanup bill. So I'll be following up and try to seek that clarification because Assemblymember Gordon had told me that previously that he had been assured that there would be an opportunity for a cleanup bill in the near term.
That would be great. I don't know whether, it'd be great if they tried to get it in the next 3 weeks, but again, as we discussed, that might be something that we work on through the fall and make sure we properly introduce it in January.
Okay.
introduce what in January?
Legislation, new legislation.
Cleanup bill, right?
Who do you think is going to introduce that?
Well, that's what we're going to have to work on.
Well, I can tell you that Assemblymember Gordon said that he had received a commitment from the Assembly leadership that there would be such an opportunity, so he may be receptive. That's one of the clarifications that I want to seek is not only the content, but who's going to be the authors on the bill.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So has the legislature accomplished anything in this first out of 4 weeks in session?
Not the first 4 days. At that, there's a lot of talk. I think they, not yet, no.
Okay. John, as you probably know, our next item on the agenda is discussion of recommendations to include in the cleanup bill if and when it ever shows up. So given what you're now understanding, do you think now is the time for us to prepare that letter, or should we hold off a bit?
I think Palo Alto has been well served by this committee, putting their ideas down very clearly and going through the deliberative process, because then when you need the stuff, you've already done the work and done the thinking in a thoughtful way. I think that they're going through the list of things that are on there. They all seem good. We have to figure out how we craft them into the legislation. That's something we'll work on. So I don't think I don't know if we need to send a letter out, but I would certainly make sure that we had our ideas well formulated. I would really be surprised if we were able to get too much cleanup language in during this session. That would be pretty impressive for someone like Gordon to move that through.
So do you think that we should? I think are you saying that we should not send a letter, but instead just have a memorandum which you and your colleagues could use in trying to work with the legislative staffs to get that in whenever the cleanup bill ever comes out?
I think so, and from the memo we could always draft a letter. It gives us a point to begin those. It gives us something to bounce off as for negotiation and writing stuff out.
Okay. And since we have the city council member here from the town of Atherton, you think it'd be helpful for Atherton to do something along the same lines?
We'd be happy to piggyback, whatever you do.
Okay. All right. Anything else that we ought to know about, John?
No, but I would like to stay on the line and listen to the rest of the conversation, if that's all right.
Sure. Greg, Pat?
Yeah, John, I just had a couple of questions. You have the agenda in front of you that we're talking about today?
I do.
So when you looked at those items, that's when you said you thought they were all good things to discuss. Is that what I heard you say?
Yes, I think we ought to discuss them all.
Which ones on there did you think were easier to get through or less easy to get through?
I think that certainly we have to make sure that it's limited to two. But we have to try. We've got that EIR sitting out there with 4 tracks.
Yep.
To try to get that down to 2. And I think really, making sure that we've established local development agreements with prior to construction, I think is very important. Certainly Caltrain being the lead agency, and these are going to be controversial and will be a challenge absolutely, but we ought to try for it. But certainly the 2-track system seems to be most consistent with everything that I've been a part of for the last 8 months with this committee. So if we could get that locked down in statute, that would be very helpful.
Okay.
Because we are looking at, by the time they're actually, Caltrain will be doing its modernization, but by the time there's actually a high-speed rail train, we could have a turnover of several legislatures. So we want to make sure that we've got, comfort letters aren't going to be worth a whole lot 10 years down the road. But statutes, we hope, will still be obeyed.
So that's where we should put all this, is in the cleanup statute and the cleanup legislation, right? You don't see any problems getting the guarantee of the bookend funding at all, do you? I mean, I would assume that wouldn't be too hard to get.
You know, I don't know. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out exactly how they're planning on funding these things. So, I mean, I think it would be great to see a guarantee, but, you know, that, you know, I just don't know where all the money is coming from. There's a lot of promises, and we haven't seen how the money's going to flow. At least I have not.
I would think that's going to be hard to get. It's very simple, because if they have cost overruns in the Central Valley, how are they going to cover them? The answer, I think, is take the money from the bookends, because they have a commitment to get the Central Valley thing done. Otherwise, they don't get the federal money.
Yeah.
I actually think that every one of these could be a ballot.
Yeah, I haven't tried to weigh them all, but I don't think any of them are. I think I tend to agree with. I don't think we'll ever get the guarantee the system is limited to a blended system for the life of the system.
Yeah, I didn't think you were going to get that either, so that's why I was wondering if there was anything on here that we thought we could get easily, and I'm hearing we're not. You don't think there's anything we can get?
Well, I think when we sit down with Assemblymember Gordon and we can compare what he understood were the things that he expects to be able to get through versus what we're asking for, that might then be a subset that is easier than the others.
Right.
If he has already received some kind of a commitment on some of these items.
So I guess that I wanted to get back to John's earlier point of not writing a letter right now, but doing a memo. Do we have enough information to put these together yet and decide what we want to do? You feel good about it?
Okay. I don't think there's any problem with that.
Yeah.
John, I forgot to ask one question. Going back to the Chowchilla Y,
Yes.
was there any discussion as to where the money for that's going to come from?
No. No, they don't have money for that. But, you know, their advocates are pushing to get that going, because obviously if they could get that track to turn west, then it sort of begins to lock things up. But no, there's no discussion on the money for that. It's hard to see the money for almost any of this. So I'm afraid people may be spending the same dollar multiple times.
We have laws against that, don't we? Okay, well, anything else, colleagues? Oh, we have a question from a member of the public, Mr. Brown.
Yes, Morris Brown, Menlo Park. And on legislative action, there was a joint audit committee, legislative audit committee meeting on Thursday. And at that meeting, Assemblywoman Harkey and Senator LaMalfa had proposed to the committee that another audit of the High-Speed Rail Authority be conducted. And there's about a 25-minute segment that you can view. I thought her arguments were very strong, that she was saying that basically they've appropriated $8 billion to spend over the next 5 years, and the authority really doesn't have to come back with any reports of any substance. And the idea was to get Elaine Howe, who was there, to start a new audit. And it was voted down on party lines, Democrats saying no and Republicans saying yes. And so at best, this audit, if it ever is started, won't be started for quite some time. But it was an interesting argument, I thought, and I have posted that video up on YouTube if anybody's interested. Thank you very much.
Any response, John?
I think Morris is doing a great public service by getting all this stuff posted, and I thank him. But right now, you know, it's so polarized, and after that vote, we were not surprised that it went in a party vote, but we hope that that's something we can continue to advocate for to get that audit done, because as Morris pointed out, and Assemblywoman Harkey pointed out, there's $8 billion. Somebody's got to be watching the kitty somehow on this.
You'd think.
John,
you would think, yes.
well, the more we talk, the more questions you come up with. You mentioned the November election. Are any discussions beginning to occur on what might be a Plan B, assuming the election went down?
Well, as a high-level staffer told me the other day, we don't even want to think about what happens at Plan B, and that's not very. You should always have a Plan B, but I think that those cuts are too horrible for them to take on, in their opinion. That said, my guess, my crystal ball would say if this goes down, we'll see it again in June. They'll come up with some other way to do this. Another election, because the cuts are really quite bad. Looking at the polling data, though, somebody needs to come up with a Plan B.
Yeah. My informal poll of people I run into in Palo Alto is that there are a number of people that I've talked to who would ordinarily be a clear yes vote or who are agonizing over this.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else on this one? So you're going to stay on the phone and
Yes.
okay. Let us know if you've got want to chime in.